Good afternoon, everybody. Could everybody hear me okay? If you could just give me a thumbs up if so. Excellent. Welcome to today's Tech Talks for Power Platform. My name is Kelly Piper, and I'm part of the community and storytelling team here at Microsoft. I'm excited to bring you this weekly technical call series where Microsoft engineers and products bees bring you the latest info on Power Platform. That, of course, includes Power Apps, Power Automate, Power Pages, and Microsoft Copilot Studio. Before we begin, please note that this session is being recorded. The meeting decks and the recordings will be posted to the partner portal by Tuesday of next week. We have an AKA link, which I'll put in the chat window so you could easily find that. With that fun out of the way, I would like to introduce today's speaker, Scott D., Senior Cloud Advocate, presenting from Prompts to Python, Code Interpreter in Microsoft Copilot Studio. Also, special shout out to Scott's special guests, Daniel L. and April D., who will be joining the call and also helping to answer all of the amazing questions I'm sure you will be putting in the chat window. So Scott and team, thank you so much for joining us today. Whenever you are ready, I'll go ahead and hand things over to you.
Thank you so much, Kelly. It's great to be here. So you should be able to see my screen now. Hopefully that's all good. You can see it good? I'll
now
take
we
that
can. It just came up for me,
great.
Scott.
Oh, fantastic, fantastic. So yes, I am here to talk about from prompts to Python, code interpreter in Microsoft Copilot Studio. So firstly, a little bit about myself. I'm Scott Giroux. I'm part of the cloud advocacy team, and also in the chat, as Kelly mentioned, April and Daniel from my team are also here as well, being able to answer any of your questions that you might have. And it's very exciting today because this is a little sneak preview into one of the missions in the Commander, the third part of Agent Academy. So if you've not seen Agent Academy before, go and check it out, aka.ms/Agent Academy. Missions that take you through using Copilot Studio, and it's going to take you all the way through from recruit all the way up to sort of more advanced stuff. And Commander will be released at some point in the future, but this is a sneak preview, as I said, of one of those missions on Code Interpreter in Microsoft Copilot Studio. Now, there is a poll which, if you want to join, if you want to provide any feedback, any kind of improvements that you want to kind of suggest, you can join that. And I'll put this up at the end as well. But what we're going to be looking at is what is Code Interpreter? What does it do? And why is it there? Why is it a thing? Two different types of Code Interpreter, two different ways of using it. Agents as an agent tool or as inside prompts. You may have seen Code Interpreter in M365 Copilot already, so this is now coming into Copilot Studio as well. And we're going to look at how you can even do advanced scenarios like accessing data using Python code. And then lots of demos, okay? So yeah, it's very much about bringing Python, that deterministic way of running code, into the world of LLMs and into the world of agents, so that we can just do more, add more intelligence to our agents. And it really does unlock some exciting capabilities. It really does sort of bring us into a place where our agent is starting to be more like an analyst. So what is it? What is Code Interpreter then? So Code Interpreter is something that you enable in Power Platform Admin Center to enable them. When you do that, you can then turn it on inside your Copilot Studio agent. And it lets that agent generate Python code. Now, this Python code then runs server side. So it's in a sandbox, and it's a Python sandbox that's given lots of different libraries. Some of those libraries are for statistical analysis. Some of those libraries are for generating documents or even reading documents or generating charts. So there's this whole raft of different libraries that are made available to the LLM when it creates that Python code. So this is not us writing Python code. This is about the agent knowing what those libraries are available to, knowing agents are very, very good at writing Python code as well, as it turns out, and it will do that on your behalf. And so it can do things like handle data heavy work. So like doing analysis of files, like an Excel file, and even generating Excel, Word, PowerPoint documents, generating images, charts. And then as an advanced scenario, we can even read and also update Dataverse directly from the Python code. So this is not going through a connector. This is actually having Python code directly connecting to Dataverse and performing operations via the web API. And so there's two modes. You can have reusable code, which is generated by the agent at once whilst you're at design time. And then that's stored, that code is stored in a prompt, and then you can reuse that prompt over and over again, running the same code. Or you can have your agent generate the code on the fly at runtime to answer questions, which is, I think, one of the really exciting parts for me. So I wanted to get right into it really quickly, rather than just like showing you slides. And so you can see here, I'm in Power Platform Admin Center here, and you come over there and you go into Copilot, and then you head over into settings here. And then once you've done that, you can then see that you can scroll down here under the Copilot Studio section. We've got the ability to have code generation and execution in Copilot Studio. So you need to select that and enable it for the environments that you want to. And so you can do this by groups of environments. So if you want to make sure you have some governance and make sure that you only want it in certain groups of environments and other groups of environments you don't want it enabled, you can manage it there. And so what we do is let's go and create a blank agent and actually look at what this, how it works. So just created a blank agent here. It's going to obviously finish setting up. We're using, it's just the GPT 4.1, which is the default here. And once this is set up, I have got the ability to obviously interact with my agent. So I'm not giving it any instructions. So my instructions are blank when I first created an agent. And I can start to immediately interact with my agent. And so if we go into the settings, the reason that we can do that is that our agent has got, by default, information from the web and general knowledge. Okay, so we're going to turn off web. Let's just leave general knowledge turned on for the moment. And so general knowledge this is the knowledge that's kind of built into an agent because just part of the foundational model that it uses. So let's just ask it a question, shall we? So I don't know, like let's say calculate. I don't know, a simple sum, something that I kind of, anybody really could do if they think about it a little bit. Show the output. So let's just see what it does. Okay, so we're just using the foundational model here. Well, okay, so I mean, I wouldn't say that I'm an expert at maths, but I don't think that is the right answer. And that's funny. I was having a conversation with a friend, and they were saying that, like, I just can't trust a agent to do anything, like, because it can't do simple maths. Well, but that's no surprise based on the way that these the foundational model works. They work on probabilities, right? So I know we could argue with it a little bit. So we could say, let's say, are you sure? Check your answer. So, we could like coerce it into saying, well, okay, so there we go. It's definitely convinced that the result is minus 21. And, I could even kind of get some more down in details that will show you working. Why is that? And it will say things like that. Well, because 5.11 is less than 5.9. And, clearly that's not right. So this is where Python code and code interpreter comes in. Because if I head over into settings, and I've already enabled this inside my inside PPAC in Power Apps Admin Center, I'm going to come down here, and you can see that we've got this code interpreter section. Bear in mind that this is experimental at the moment, and it is a premium feature. Okay, and so I'm going to toggle that on and save, and let that do its thing and save. And so great. Now what we've got the ability to do here is let's give it a go again, shall we? So, what did I say last time? Calculate 5.9 minus 5.11 and show the output. So let's see what happens now. Okay, so what happens now is we've given this code tool to our agent, so that rather than relying on its kind of general knowledge about the probabilities of showing certain calculations, what it's going to do is it's going to go, I have a code tool to use. Now, if we if we look here, what is interesting here is that this is something that occasionally happens. I've noticed that it kind of ignores what's going on here. It's still got the wrong answer. So that's interesting. Let's just see what happens. This is the joy of demoing AI, right? But you can see here what it's done is it's shown that it's generated a little bit of code here. And it's in the code here, it's got the result. This is the formula that it's using, 5.9 minus 11. And you can see here at the top there, it has actually got the right answer. So I might need to go into my settings or my instructions here and say, let's edit the instructions and let's give it a little bit of prompting to say, like, always use the code tool as the authoritative answer. I don't think I can spell authoritative. There we go. So let's save that. And let's start a new session here. And let's give it a go again. So calculate 5.9 minus 5.11 and show your working. So let's see what happens now. So let's see the orchestrator kicking in. So the orchestrator kicked in, it's written the code. And bearing in mind, this is actually writing code on the fly in order to answer a question. And so what this is, by improving our prompts here, what we can do is we can start to give our agent instructions on being an analyst in a certain in a certain kind of domain of skills. So you can see here that because I told it, like, use that code tool, that we're actually now getting the right answer because it's giving us that kind of instructions on the description of how it's done it, and it's used this bit of code here to answer the questions. You can see here it's got a whole raft of description of the process that it went through. So this is a kind of a basic example. What about more complex scenarios? Okay, so I'm going to say, right, okay, I've got a Excel sheet of transactions, and I want to make sure that I want to kind of do an audit of those transactions. Okay, so I'm going to say, let's put in a prompt here. And let's look at what this is. So use your code tool to flag all the transactions above 10,000 in this file. So let's attach a file. And this is just a simple Excel file of transactions. And then I'm going to also, let's say I also wanted to go into have the ability to flag any transactions against data in Dataverse, for example. So we can sort of audit it and match it against some accounts. So I can add in knowledge here. So I'm going to add Dataverse as knowledge, and I'm going to search for the accounts table like this, and then add this. And so what's interesting here is that this code agent has got access to knowledge that we give our agent, and then it can actually also do analysis on SharePoint documents as well. It's a new feature. So I can even ask it to write code and do analysis on SharePoint. So here we've got use your code tool, and I'm going to run this and see what happens. So there we go. There's our transactions that it's uploaded. So let's look at the orchestrator here. So what it's now doing is it's now writing code in order to fulfill my prompt. Now, I probably should be prompting harder, right? My prompt is a little bit simple there, but I could equally say, well, actually, do very much more specifics like column names. But I've just tried to go for a sort of just to leave it up to its own devices here. And so it's continuing to do an analysis. And of course, what it's doing is it's as a combination of the standard LLM foundational model. So it's actually using its knowledge of how Excel spreadsheets work. It's using its knowledge of how you do auditing of transactions, all of that kind of stuff. but it's also using its knowledge about how to write code. And so you can see here that it's got, all this code here is using, if we look at the top, it's using a set of imports here. So it's importing what we've got here. We've got connector client, and we're using OpenPyXL, which is like a library that reads and writes to Excel files. So it already knows all these different modules that it has available to it. And it can write the code. And so you can see here, we've now got the output from that prompt, which is got from. Now, if I wanted to say something like also match against the flagged vendors in Dataverse, right? So now what we can do is we can sort of carry on that whole process of doing analysis. And so you can see here, it's now searching the knowledge sources against accounts, and it's using the output from the previous code. So this is not just about single runs of code. This is about using the outputs of code that you can then further use inside your conversation, inside the conversation context based on history. So this really is adding in that kind of ability for agents to act much, much more intelligently, rather than relying on that probability, which we've all seen where AI agents kind of just do oddball things. And it's because sometimes it may do this and maybe it'll do a different thing. But of course, with Python, you're much, much more likely to get accurate results. So that's all great. That's all well and good. Okay, so let's just flip back over to our presentation here. So we have these two different types, as I mentioned before. So what we've just seen there is having the agent code interpreter, but we've also got the ability to have a prompt code interpreter. And what this means is that rather than the agent writing that code on the fly, we're actually using natural language at design time to generate the code. So we're actually using a prompt, a natural language prompt, in the same way as I wrote into the chat, but this way it actually creates Python, which is then stored inside the prompt. And then that prompt can be called deterministically from our agent. And so the same inputs will always create the same outputs. But not only that, between runs of our agents, it will use the same code. Of course, with Code Interpreter, the code gets generated at runtime. And so that agent will be generating that code, and then next time we do it, it could be generating slightly different code, which is actually one of the powers of it. And that's the magic of Code Interpreter at the agent level, is that it gives you the flexibility to do something slightly differently and really sort of use the creativity. But sometimes you just don't want that creativity. Just don't be creative. Just do the same thing every single time. So we've got the ability to do that. So we can actually have either that ad hoc code or code that's run the same every single time. And so there are slightly differences. So when we run a prompt, we've got the ability to input Excel, PDF, images, or we can upload files from a connection that we've supplied via an agent flow. It can access Dataverse tables, so it can read Dataverse tables and it can update Dataverse tables, and then it can output things like deterministic adaptive cards or file downloads or just the text. But with the code interpreter, the inputs and the outputs are slightly different. So it can use SharePoint knowledge as inputs. You can upload files in the chat, as we saw just in that demo. But then the agent decides on how to return that. So we don't get this sort of ability to have this deterministic control over how it actually outputs in the chat. It will kind of go, well, okay, I'm going to just format it in this particular way, or I'm going to give you a download, or I'm going to show an image in line. So there are subtle differences, but they're all running in the same sandbox. Okay, so let's do a little bit more of a bigger demo here. Let's sort of really dive a little bit more deeper, I think, into this. So what we're going to show is a similar scenario. Okay, so very, very similar scenarios that we just showed, where we're auditing some transactions. But I want this to be done in a way where I can give it an Excel spreadsheet that's got the same format each time, and providing you give it the same input, it's always going to provide you with the same output. I don't want the code to be written on the fly. I don't want the agent to be creative. I just want it to I want to build it during design time, and I want to test it, make sure it works, and then save it, and then make sure that that was the same code that will run each of our runs. So if I go into settings here, and let's turn off code interpreter, okay? Because I don't want the code interpreter at the agent level anymore. I'm going to use it at the prompt level, okay? So if I come over into tools, I can now create a new prompt tool. And you might have used prompt tools already. Prompt tools are fantastic because you're sort of using, this is like a multi-tool of LLMs. The foundational model, you get to pick the foundational model from all of the different models available. You can use the anthropic models, or you can bring your own models from Foundry, and you write the instructions. And this is like a text-based, or you can even use it to generate documents. But fundamentally, what it's doing here is it's sending it to the foundation model. So if you've got a multimodal prompt, you could send images as well. So if I attach a file here, it's going to convert that file into images, and it's going to send the text along with the images, and then the foundational model is going to go and respond. Now I can also add other things, like I can add knowledge and ground it on Dataverse as well. So I can do some advanced stuff. But fundamentally, each time I run that, it's going to be subtly different, because the foundation model is based on probabilities, but there is also this kind of random seed as well. So what we can do is, rather than rely on that foundational model, we can go into settings here, and we can enable code interpreter at the prompt level. And so rather than this at the agent level, this is just enabled for this one prompt. And what I've done is I've created just a little instructions here. So you're given an Excel file, transactions and procurement transactions, including these columns. And your task is to process the Excel file to flag transactions over $10,000 with missing or blank PO numbers. And then an output, this time I'm saying output an updated Excel file, which is flagged transactions highlighted in red. So I'm giving a little bit more complex instructions here. And I want to output this as documents and images, right? So I'm saying output an Excel file. So if I select this here, I can now click add content. And I want to say have an input here, which is going to be my transactions. And I'm just going to upload a test one here, which is the same one. Actually, I uploaded it before. So I'll close that. Now, as soon as I've enabled code interpreter, if I go to add content again and go to image or document, you'll notice that if I go to upload, there are a lot more options here than you might normally get used to seeing. That's quite small, so apologies about that. But you can see we've got XLSX, DocX, PowerPoint, as well as the PNG and PDF and JPEG. So there's more file types that we can use here than just a normal prompt, if you like. So there we go. That's all good. So let's test this. Let's see what it does here. So what's happening here is, rather than this being directly sent to our foundation model, the foundation model is being prompted slightly differently. It's not sending the instructions as the prompt that you would normally see. It's sending the prompt and saying, okay, do this, but write me Python code. And it's also giving the instructions, the system prompt, which is defining all the different libraries that it has available to it, how you do certain things in Python specific to the way in which Copilot Studio works. So there's all this kind of system knowledge, but also the instructions that we're giving it. And along with that, obviously, it's also going to send the files that we've given it so that it can actually execute that Python. So there we go, it's finished. Now, at the top here, we can see text, but I've got the ability here to also go and select code. So I can actually see the code that is running here. And so you can see all the different imports, and it's got this logger mechanism here, which is, so it's saying starting process of input Excel file. And there we go, all this code. You don't need to understand this. But nevertheless, I would encourage you to sort of look at it to see, oh, is this actually the thing is this doing the right thing? Just get an idea for the kind of logic that it's creating. It creates comments. It's actually, and Python is incredibly easy to read. It's like a very user-friendly language. And so you can see here it's iterating over different rows. And here we go. Here is our transactions flag. So let's download that and let's open that file and actually see what if it's done what we asked it to do. What we asked it, if you remember, I asked it to flag any transactions over 10,000 that didn't have a PO number. So here is the file that it's output here. And if we look at these, we asked it to flag them in red. So you can see here that, yep, that's got no PO number and it's above 10,000. So there's, it's flagged these. There are some things that, like here we go, PO number, hasn't got a PO number. And of course, these aren't above 10,000. So the logic that it's put into here is very important for us to understand. And so what we can do is let's say, well, actually we want to be a bit more specific. We can start to iterate on this and we can give it more and more instructions and test it and make sure that that code is doing what we want it to do. But because of course, that code is going to be stored and run again and again and again. Now, I've got the option here to test without regenerating. And that's really important because say I want to test with a different file, but I don't want to regenerate the code. Well, that is going to be the option we want to do because I don't want to regenerate the code if I know it's what we want it to look like. And so we can test it there. So that's all cool. So let's assume now we've got that all working. So if we go back to our agents, and if we go back into our agent that we were working on before, how do we actually add this in? Okay, because we've got the prompt which works, and that's got an input file and it's got an output file. Well, in Copilot Studio, and you may have found this already, the easiest way of doing that is by using a topic that then calls a agent flow. An agent flow is very good at handling input files and then output files. So I'm going to create a agent flow, right? Okay, so if we go to flows here and say new agent flow, actually let's do it from inside our agent. That's probably going to be the easiest way to do it. I'm going to go to tools here and add a new tool and say new tool and select agent flow. And so we have an agent flow has got inputs and an outputs. Okay, so the input here is going to be, because we want to run this prompt for a set of transactions, so the input is going to be files. So I'm going to say this is going to be our transactions here, and I'm going to put obviously a description so that the agent knows what to do. And the part that we want to do now is call a prompt. So we've got the ability here, AI capabilities, run a prompt. Very, very easy. And so it's like we're wrapping up this prompt inside an agent flow. And so I can then select my prompt that I say transaction audit. And of course, the transaction audit has got the input files, which is cool. We called it transactions. So I can just simply come into here and select content bytes. So there we go. We've now populated that. So it's going to run that now. And of course, now what I want to do is I want to respond to the agent with the updated file, right? Which has got all the highlighted transactions. So updated file, let's call it that. And so we just need to use a little expression here. So if I go to the expression builder, and so what I'm doing here is I'm saying pick the first output, because outputs, this is what's very cool about prompts, they can actually output multiple files. But I'm picking the first file here, and then I'm picking the base64 content, which is what needs to be done to return the file. So I add that. And also I can add text as well here. So I could just say, like a summary like this. And I can put another expression here just to get the summary that and this will be like the kind of the JSON information about logs, maybe for debug, that kind of thing. So that's all cool. And so let's save that as a draft here. And we could obviously run the flow checker to make sure everything is working. This looks pretty good. And go to overview, and then I'm going to rename this to be a sort of demo transactions like that. And then we're going to publish this, because now we've wrapped this prompt up. We now need to add this prompt via the agent flow to our agent. And so I can then publish that. If I go into back into our agents, let's look at how we do that. So I'm going to go into tools, into topics, and I'm going to add a new topic, and I'm going to start from blank. And I'm going to give this is where we define the intent. Okay, so we'll call it this. We'll call this audit transactions, and we want to describe what this topic does. Okay, so this, like, e.g., this topic provides information, and this is so important because this is how our orchestrator decides on whether or not it should call this topic or not. So I'm going to do my bestest prompt here. Like, this topic audits an uploaded Excel file containing transactions. Now, the more information you can give here, more specifics, the better. Obviously, there does come to a point where you get so much data, so much information here, you do get context overload, and it's diminishing returns. But you want to be as precise as your agent needs it. And so the next thing to do here is to add a tool. And so I can select my agent flow here. So here's my agent flow that we have created that calls our prompts. And so we need to pass in the transactions. Now, in our case, this file is going to be uploaded via the chat. This is why we're creating a topic, because topics are very, very good for creating a curated experience that's inside the chat. Most of the time, our foundation model can handle multi-turn, doing populating inputs and outputs. It's very good at doing that with the orchestrator, but in this particular case, we want to be a bit more precise because we want to provide the file that we've uploaded via the chat. So I'm going to come into a formula here and put a little formula here. And basically what I'm doing here is I'm using the system activity attachment. So I'm getting the first attachment here, and I'm putting this into a structure that is needed to be passed into our agent flow. So there's the agent flow that's being run. And of course, we have the two outputs, the updated file and the summary. So I'm going to now send a message. And this is what I mean by we're making a much more curated experience. So, I could say here is the updated, here is the flagged transactions, for example. So I'm going to go to add. Also, I'm going to add the file. So we're downloading the file. And this is where I actually get to put the content in here. And so I can just select here. And so you can see that our updated file there, which is the output from our agent flow, is of type file, which is great, which is exactly what we need. So I'm going to select that there. And then we're going to give it a name here. So this is the name of the file that's going to be downloaded. Now, because this is a downloaded set of transactions that's updated, I'm just putting a little formula in here, like just to format, to say it's updated transactions, but I want to format it in a particular way so that we get a unique name. We don't want to download the same name every single time. Okay, so there we go, insert and save that away. So our topic is very simple. It's just simply calling that agent flow and passing in the attached file. Now, of course, that agent flow could be called by other places. So I could have that agent flow called in a way where it's much more deterministic as part of a bigger process. So the agent flow is actually just a sort of component, if you like. So what I can do now is actually test it. So this is where it always gets exciting, because demoing agents and demoing AI is literally extreme sport. So I'm going to put in here. So I'm going to say audit these transactions, please. Obviously, always say please, because that makes a difference. It doesn't make a difference. Just saying. So I'm going to select my transactions here, and then Ralph says, "Oh, it will make a difference. Maybe it will one day. Don't save him. He said please. He said thank you. Don't when the robots take over." So there we go. what we've got here is here is the flag transactions, and so it's actually run our agent flow. And if I download my transactions, I can see, there we go, I can open this file and wait for it to load. And that was the old one, no smoke and mirrors here. This is the new one. And so there we go, it's done the same thing. And now because this is deterministic, every time, if provided I provide the same inputs, then we'll always get the same outputs. And this is what's super, super cool. Now, notice it's also given us like a little sort of, summary of stuff. Because like AI agents are super helpful, always trying to help. Maybe I didn't want to do it. Maybe I didn't want to have like that. Well, the way we do that is at the end of our topic here, we go down to topic management and we just say end conversation. And then that's going to then stop it from carrying on. So that's all cool. So what about if we want to do something slightly differently? Say we wanted to do some kind of visualization. Maybe my agent wants to be like a sales agent that's sort of that's giving our sales professionals the ability to every morning kind of just get like an understanding of like the most recent opportunities that have come in. So if I go to back into tools and I say new tool and I click prompt here. So this will be like, demo opportunity, chart. So what's our prompt going to be for this? Now, obviously, I'm not going to let you watch me type this out. So what we're saying is, given your opportunities in a CRM system with estimated close date and revenue, probability and description, your task is to query all opportunities and created in the last week. So these are a little bit important things, and then output a chart, showing the estimated revenue by probability bucket. So I'm giving a little bit of creative freedom here in terms of what it's going to do, but I'm also saying like order things like, order the y-axis from the lowest probability at the top. So the prompt here is super important what you give it. You have to give it the most important things that you're interested in. Obviously, I need to go back into settings and I need to turn on code interpreter. And then what we need to do is we are having to give it some information about where it gets these opportunities from. Now, last time, remember before I just gave it a file, but actually here, what we can do is we can use the Dataverse integration. So I can actually select Dataverse here. Now, you may have used Dataverse grounding inside prompts. So let's find our opportunities in here. There we go. Now, Dataverse grounding in prompts is where, along with all the prompts context, it also sends a big chunk of data. This is not that, okay? This is something very, very different that's going on. It looks the same, but it's different, okay? So I'm going to select some different different columns that it's going to be interested in. Now, in a Dataverse grounding scenario, this would be queried as part of the prompt and sent to the foundational model. In this case, what we're doing is we're just giving it metadata. Okay, so I'm going to set the, let's just leave it at text and see what happens. So I'm going to test this. Now, what happens here is that in the same way as before, it's going to write Python code. So it's sending to the foundation model. It's saying, hey, go and write Python code. 2, do all the things that the user asked for. Be a bit creative, but here are all the libraries you can use, the same thing as before. This is the sandbox that we're going to execute it in. But in addition to that, it's also sending some information on how to query Dataverse. And so look at that beautiful chart that it's actually created. And it's followed my instructions that I've asked it to do. But what it hasn't done is it hasn't queried this data and sent it in text format, which is what would happen normally with Dataverse grounding. If we go over into code here, and we just scroll down here, what we've got is some pretty cool. We've got some actual web requests going on, web API requests. So it's actually querying our opportunities and using the web API endpoint, it's creating a filter, it's creating a select, and then it's getting that data, and then iterating over that data, and then creating the chart. So our prompt and our Python has got the capability of actually directly integrating. So this is from the sandbox on the server, querying directly to Dataverse, which is pretty wild if you ask me. But what we can also do here is we want to say things like, well, okay, for opportunities in the 25% bucket, update the priority to low. Okay, now let's go crazy here. Let's actually see if this is actually going to work. So here I am inside in Dataverse. Inside, I'm going to move that chart. Here's all my opportunities, and here are all the priorities. They're all set to none. So these are the opportunities that it was just graphing. So let's go back here and test this and see what happens. So again, it's going to write the Python code. It's going to give it the instructions on how to read the data, given the metadata that it knows about. But it's also going to write the code to send patch statements directly to Dataverse. And this then enables some pretty crazy scenarios. So inside that Python sandbox, it's got statistical libraries. It's got libraries that can do complex things like Monte Carlo simulation scenarios. So the libraries that it has available to it unlock some things that would just be very complicated to do if you were going to write this code in any other way. Maybe you could write this code using C# in a plugin, but what we can see here is this is so much quicker and so much more tightly integrated to our environment. So there's our chart again, but it's also said down here, updated priority to low for 4 opportunities. Okay, and there's a really nice little feature here, which it gives you like the run details, because part of the prompt is also says, we don't have to tell it to do this. This is the system prompt doing. It says, oh, by the way, create like a run execution of all the different things, and like log what you're doing. And if we head over into our code and we just do a search in here, if I search for like updated priority, you can see there, that's our updated priority. You can see there is the logger. So updated priority to low for opportunity, and there's the opportunity ID. So you can then trace what your code is doing. So, okay, this is the moment of truth. Did it actually do it? So we can see here all our priorities are none. So if I refresh this and look at that, wow, we've now got some low, and those are the ones which were in the 25% bucket. Pretty wild stuff. So, of course, what I can do there is once I've saved that away, I can then go and call that in the same way as I did before by wrapping it up in a topic. So if I go into, this is a one I prepared earlier, so you don't have to just watch me do the thing. And so if we go to the opportunity chart here, exactly the same as before, we got a trigger, which is like create a chart of recent opportunities. And we're calling the that opportunity chart. We don't need to pass anything in this time because we've already got the Dataverse connection. But the output is a chart here, which is like a base 64 encoded. And the media here, you can see what we're doing here is, if we go into the formula, very simple, we're just going to output it as a base 64 encoded string using the output from that prompt. And that's what we do there is we say add, and we say add image, right? And that's what allows us to output image. And so it's the topic, remember, is a curated experience where we want it to act in a specific way. Okay, so let's just see what it says. So let's ask it. So create me an opportunity chart. Again, these prompts, I really should prompt harder. So create me an opportunity chart, and no, zero context. But of course, what it does is that the topic that it has is I've given it the intent, so it works out the intent. Because if I had a load of topics in this agent, obviously we'd need to be more precise. But because I've just got these two topics, it's kind of worked it out. So there we go. There's the agent. If we expand here, we can see the opportunity chart. There's the rationale and the topic that it's called. And of course, there I can kind of continue to iterate. Whew, that was a lot of stuff to take in. But code interpreter, turn it on in Admin Center. Be explicit and structured in prompts. Provide examples. Prompt better than me. Choose the right mode. Do you want it deterministic via prompts? You want it to run the same Python code every time? Or do you want to kind of give the AI agent analysts kind of behavior and be able to do it ad hoc? Test, monitor, and govern it carefully. Obviously, testing and monitoring is super important. One thing I did want to show you actually was if you come over into the automation center, you can go to AI build activity and you can see all the different runs of your prompts and you can see the outputs. So you can kind of see what cost they are. If there's zero credits if you're running them inside a quick test environment. Obviously, they consume credits if they're running inside your agent for real. So you can go to Advocacy Academy, which is our YouTube channel playlist, which there is a video that I did on Python code. This is specifically a video on the deterministic way of doing Python code. So check that out, Advocacy Academy. Here's some useful links. So you can head over to AKA Code Tool Agent to get some information about like adding it at your agent level to enable it to write code on the fly, and then Code Tool Prompt to adding it at the prompt level to make deterministic code. And you can go to our hub as well. So we have an awesome hub which kind of brings all of this stuff together in one place, which you can browse all the resources. And there's in that, of course, there is a link to Agent Academy, which is what you've seen. This will be a mission inside Commander. So you'll be one step ahead of the curve from your friends and be able to amaze your colleagues with your knowledge of Code Interpreter. So before we finish then, there is this, if you want to, you can join the code tool poll, which allows you to add in some asks like, I'd like you to do this. Maybe you've used it already, or maybe you've seen the demo that I've just done. Go in there and you can kind of add in any suggestions, and then I will make sure that I pass this on to the product team. Code Tool is one of those things I can't encourage you enough. Just try it out. Remember, it is experimental. It does give your agent the ability to answer questions like, what is 5.9 minus 5.11? Try it yourself. Go into, I don't know if you use ChatGPT, try it, see what it says, argue with it a little bit. It's so much fun and games. But yeah, AKA Code Tool Poll, please go there. I'll be keeping the poll open for a little while. I'm going to post the link into the chat as well. And yeah, keep an eye out for the latest missions in Agent Academy. Thank you so much for your time and attention today. It's been a great pleasure. This is a feature that I get so excited about, as you probably can see. But if anyone has any questions that they haven't had answer in the chat, maybe if Kelly, if we can use some time for questions.
We sure can, and thank you so much for this overview, Scott. This is amazing. So I think we have about 2 questions right now that haven't yet been answered. So I'll start with Brian's. Are there any considerations about IP firewall with respect to where this Python web request is originating?
Right. So this Python is actually it runs in a sandbox, which is part of, and this is something I will follow up on, because I would like to know once it gets out into GA what the definitive answer. But my understanding is that this is running a sandbox, which is the same sandbox effectively that is because you can call it via a web API, right? So it's the Dataverse web API. That's what's actually under the covers. When you create a prompt, when you create a prompt, it is exposed as a Dataverse web API endpoint, and that Dataverse web API endpoint then is obviously running in that Dataverse environment. So my understanding is all of the same constraints and controls and governance exist in terms of IP. So if you wanted to set up like an Azure VNet, you can do that. So yeah, that's my understanding. All of the same things apply to Dataverse as to the governance of this tool.
Awesome. Thank you, Scott. The next question comes from Joe, and Joe, you're being hard on yourself, but he's saying, I have a habit of missing the point. So are we saying that using Python is more of a deterministic, accurate way of making changes to data in Dataverse than using prompt/MCP alone? And in this case, Copilot is writing the actual Python code.
That's a super interesting point, because it's like we have choices. We always have so many choices, right? In the UK, there's a phrase that's there's so many different ways of skinning a cat. Please do not skin a cat. Why people are thinking about skinning a cat, I do not know. Please do not. But it means that it's like, so many different things to choose from, different ways of updating data, different ways of reading data. This adds an additional option. And I think for me, what the reasons you pick this is where the updates or the queries you're doing requires the rigor of a Python script using libraries like statistic analysis libraries. And you want to give that as a tool to your agent. Now, if you were to use the Dataverse MCP server, what the tool is going to be doing there is rather than writing Python, it's writing SQL queries, okay? And SQL queries can do some degree of aggregation analysis. And certainly in your agent, you can give instructions on the kind of queries you want. Now, of course, the Dataverse MCP server is not just a SQL server. It does have limitations. The queries that you can use are limited. So you might hit up against an issue where actually the kind of analysis you want to do is much more advanced that it needs that rigor of a Python script. And so that's where I think this is an exciting option. I hope that answers your question.
Perfect. Any other questions or comments? You could post them in the chat and I will read those aloud. And Joe said thanks, so I think that did answer that, Scott. So thank you so much.
Great.
One question internally from Jim. When a deal is won, we create a PowerPoint slide for each win story. How can this tool grab the details from CRM and use a PowerPoint template file to generate a new win story slide to match the template layout?
Right, yeah, that sort of PowerPoint generation. I think the key point in that is using a template layout to me, because when you write Python, you're using the Python library to integrate with PowerPoint. Okay, so that library doesn't have the ability to go off to a kind of central corporate location and grab a template and then use it in that way. So any code that you write will be the template will be kind of baked into your prompt. And so there are other ways of creating, PowerPoints, like so the Frontier MCP servers for PowerPoint and Office now have got some really amazing capabilities of creating PowerPoint. So I think it's about exploring the different techniques again. The Frontier MCP server does have the ability to kind of use templates and kind of stick to a particular way of working. But of course, that's going to be non-deterministic, right? That's going to be very much each time it will do it very much in a creative way. If you were to create a prompt to do this, then obviously it's going to do it the same each time, which is an advantage, but also could be a disadvantage, given that your different wins may have different ways. It would be better to present it in different ways. So we have options. Try them out. See what matches your particular scenario best.
Perfect. Thanks, Scott. And Christian, I see you have your hand up. Unfortunately, we have a new feature where I can't bring attendees off the mute, but if you want to post your question or comments in chat, I will read it aloud. And Christian, even if you get that in there today, the chat will remain active so Scott and team could continue to monitor and respond. Already answered. Perfect. All right.
Fantastic.
Don't think we have any other questions. Scott, any closing remarks? If not, I will do a quick close and give folks a few minutes back.
Yeah, closing remarks would just be encourage you to kind of head over to these links here, that our hub and obviously Agent Academy, and keep an eye out for the next rank being released.
I love it. Thank you so much. As Ralph just said, Scott will scoot after this, so we will allow you to scoot away. Scott and team, thank you so much for joining us today. April, Daniel, this was amazing. To all of our partners on the call, thank you so much for attending each and every week. We have a great lineup this month, so make sure you keep tuning in. If there's any feedback or questions, feel free to put them in the chat. Thanks again, Scott and team. Everyone have a great day ahead. Take care all. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks, everyone.
Bye all.